gay issue, I just had to ask. Again, as I was in closing for the last chapter, I kind of went into the introduction of what this was going to be about. With me, just there was just a few questions or concerns that I had when it as it relates to the gay community, and I was just looking for honest answers. So that was part of the reason why I wrote it. And some of the concepts, or one of the things I discussed, was procreation. And in that, what I was talking about, or what I was discussing in that, was if the Lord or God decided that, you know what, these people have chosen to go in a whole different direction from what my initial purpose was for men and women. Okay, I'm just going to do them one favor. I'm just going to create an entity where the ability to access access the people that they say they don't desire not to have. If that was pressed upon them some kind of way, where maybe we'd be set where women were all in one place and men were all set in one place, or because there was a chosen desire not to value the other person the way God intended, that he would put some form of uh, a physical retraction on you, where you would feel like you couldn't correctly um, relate to that opposite sex. What would happen? What would happen? Well, I would say within 100 years there would be no society. There would be nobody. There would be nothing left, because it takes the entity of a man and a woman to procreate, and without having that ability to do so, that in itself, to me, I asked that question, or I posed that situation, because of the desire, of the unnatural desire for something that was not intended. And again, we have to realize that there was a purpose behind having men and women. And so when you discount that situation and you treat it as if it's not valid, or try to make it into something that's not valid, then what you're doing is you don't have a solution to the how to fix it, to make it better or fix it. And I mean, what I mean by that is, since you can't create within yourself, um, and we then the only way can there is a ability to create was between a man and a woman, then you don't have any solutions. You have to utilize what was ordained to be um, that circumstance, not what you want it to be. Now, a lot of people would say, well, nobody's trying to erase the ability for men and women to have a relationships and things of that nature, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if the since we have chosen that, what would will how would you feel if God chose to say, okay, you chose this, you basically said that what I brought together was not good enough for you, then why don't I just remove that situation from you, and you don't have that choice anymore? And I say that because, to me, that's part of the justification behind my belief about homosexuality not being valid, because of the fact that in order for it to exist, you need the very thing that you said you don't want. And I mean, there were islands or countries or lands where white the Caucasian race migrated to or invented from. There was locations where people of Asian descent, they were either invented or were designated to. They were people of African descent that were designated to. And though we've come together, through various forms of travel and things of that nature, each of us had our own lands, and each of us had the ability to sustain ourselves. There is no place on this earth where there's a group of people who choose from a sexual circumstance that it was in existence. And an only way that you can exist through is through the entity of, like I said, what you don't want, what you deem as something that you don't desire. So that means that basically you're biting off of people that a system that already worked. And like I said, without that system, like I said, you just wouldn't be here. So I kind of look at that. That's my main reason for having the whole problem with this scenario. Now, as far as like saying, well, this is the way I am, or whatever, or only God can judge. You're absolutely positively right. And just like all of us have crosses to bear, I have a cross to bear. Other people have crosses to bear. Everybody is going to have to answer to God for something. So you're no more special or different than anybody else. But just like we as heterosexuals have had to take the heat from, you know, church, and even sometimes society has been a reminder that, hey, you shouldn't be out here like that, and you should be more responsible, and you should be your sexual relationship should be in a married entity, not a single entity. We've had to take the heat for that. But hey, we still, whether we should be doing it or not, we kept on trucking one way or the other. Nobody lost their mind. Nobody, went through this whole you're attacking me. We did what we were going to do, and all of us know that we're going to probably have to answer to God for it. And so we do what we do anyway. Now, does it make it right? And I say, of course not. And I look at a heterosexual almost at the top of the food chain, the way I look at married people as being at the top of the food chain. We are the examples that when we are out of order, it creates problems where everybody else feels no reason to do what's right. And it's the same thing with anything that's supposed to be looked upon as being the example. So I get it that how dare we say anything, or someone of me of my a person like myself say anything to you when people like you are not doing what you're supposed to do. And like I said, I do get that. But again, just like I said in previous chapters, two wrongs don't make a right either. However, with the difference being is that the justifications that you use for doing some of the things you do, um, these are again questions I had to ask, such as the recruiting part. I've heard numerous times where like if a person is um, like a transvestite or a woman who chooses to connect with, being more like a man, their interest is more into people that are not interested in that way. Meaning that a transvestite is not interested in another man who desires men. He's interested in a man that it was interested in women. A woman who wants to be a man is not interested in woman who wants to be like a man. She's interested in a woman who wants a man. To me, that's recruiting. And so, again, we're going right back to I can get you, if you tell me this is the way you are and this is the way you were born, okay. That's the conversation between you and God. And, however that answer comes to you as to why it is, it is. But when you come to deliberately say that you're interested in recruiting, and that you would prefer to be what with you would prefer to have the kind of relationship that simulates a relationship that you don't desire to have, is something not right about that. That has nothing to do with uh, what you claiming that you are. That has something to do with some kind of control issue. That has something to do with You possibly, maybe possibly envying what you think, has a greater advantage, that looks like comes off across more like maybe even possibly anger issues toward situations that maybe you've been offended by or been, taken advantage of, and you feel like you have again a better advantage being what you been offended by. That comes off more like that than it comes off like what your just desire to be it. And those are, again, that's another point I had to ask, and so that's a question I posed. Another question I posed was the responsibility issue, and this kind of relates to young people. I know a lot of young kids feel like they need the support of their families, and they would desire the support of their families when it comes to whatever endeavors they choose to pursue. Now, the problem that I have with that is that that's fine when you're standing on your own 2 feet and this person, you're not putting somebody in a position of compromising their values. However, when you kind of use I hate to say this, I know a lot of people are going to give me a lot of flack for this, but I kind of look at when a child um, is not in a position of managing their life, their focus should be on that, not on whether or not who they want to sleep with. Even if in a heterosexual circumstance, kids are kids. I mean, that's the way we set things up over the past hundred and I guess over 100 years. It used to be a time you could get married at a certain age, and it used to be a time you could start your life at a much younger age. Well, those days seem to be gone. So now you have people who at least need some form of support, at least up until 18, when they're considered still under the thumb of their parents. So now you have people who say, well, I would love to, pursue whatever interests I have sexually with whomever I want to have sexually. But the problem with that is you're not even responsible enough to take care of yourself. And then to put somebody in a position where they have to compromise their value system because of it, all because you believe they should be supportive of you, when in actuality, if you were standing on your own 2 feet and this is what you wanted to do, regardless of whether I supported you or not, if that's what you want to do, then it goes right back to that's between you and God. And to me, that's the way you should keep it. You should not bring other people into your circumstances because of your desire to do something. This is their personal journey. They have to answer to God the same way you have to answer to God. And by that's not to me. That's just selfish. It's again, it's a form of manipulation. And I know a lot of kids have done harm to themselves because they felt greatly offended by the fact that their parents did not accept their decisions. But again, first and foremost, they weren't even in a position where they can even take care of themselves. So, up until they were released, being able to do that, I wouldn't even worry about it. I mean, there's a lot of things I wanted to do when I was a kid, and because that was my mother's house, I had to respect that. And it was no discussions or even venomous feelings behind it with me saying, well, you never let me do this. She didn't have to let me do it. It was her house. It was her. She was the one who had to deal with it, and if she didn't feel good enough about it, she had every right. And if it was so important to me, then I just had to need to map out a plan for me to be able to do it in a way that I can do it without having to ever worry about what she had to say, which is pretty much what I did. And so for me, I'm the kind of person that really doesn't have or give a lot of leeway to young people. I don't want to say throw temper tantrums, but I just don't have a lot of leeway for kids to put that kind of moral issue on another person instead of them just taking it on for themselves. And like I said, let that be between you and God. Another thing that I tried to get into was the support issue as far as in our community, especially between like women being supportive of men who participate in this lifestyle. Again, like I said, competition is competition, and I can't I can't get the point of understanding how a woman would have such a venomous concept when it comes to women and her man, and her not being concerned about this man and her man. And again, the way I look at the gay issue when it comes to that lifestyle is since they're limited in what they can do, then they try harder in the things they can do. And so, that hey, if your man is into blowjobs, and what better person he's gonna go to is another man, because guess what? That man is gonna work really hard to make sure that he's satisfied. And it's the same thing with a woman. So, I look at that as just as great of a threat as I would a woman with a skirt up her butt and, my man being, consumed with that. Now, I'm not the type of person who really worries about that in that sense, but I had to put it in that term, in that perspective to say that if I'm going to be threatened, I'm threatened by anybody who could be whose objective is aimed at the same thing I'm looking at. So it's no way in the world that if I'm that kind of woman who spends a lot of time being concerned about other women, it's no way in the world I'm going to let another man who wants to emulate me. Um, I'm not going to let him off the hook anymore either. So I kind of don't get that philosophy, just like I don't get the philosophy of us not desiring a balance perspective. And like I have enough female friends as it is. I personally don't need any more. I mean, if I'm going to want to learn about men, I need to learn from a man's point of view and the kind of men who I probably would show interest in to help me better understand what makes them tick. Not having somebody who pacifies me with them constantly co-signing on every little thing that I do. And to me, when we encourage that kind of behavior with amongst men, then all we're getting are men who, quote unquote, are no help to us. They're not helping us understand what makes a man tick. They're all they're doing is just singing to the choir. They have a singing to the choir philosophy, which does me not a bit of good. And so, again, but that's the question I had to women and things of that nature. Another question I asked was a particular celebrity had addressed women for the purpose, especially black women in our community, where she asked a question about us turning to women on the basis of us not being able to find what we saw qualified men. And my question was from her question was, if you were after you involved yourself in this kind of relationship and you find that you may meet a man who actually, could be someone you could share your life with, what do you do then? And a lot of these women who get involved with other women, they're already broken. That's part of the reason why emulating a man is, part of their solution for themselves. And so now you're actually, it's not like dumping a man, where he might look at it as just competition. That woman is probably going to feel a lot more, even more betrayed, because first of all, she already knows she could never be the man that you need. She has, again, just like a man who emulates women, he's only limited to so much of what he can do or what she can do. And so by knowing that, you know, um, they're they're looking at emotional connections being the main aspect of why you two are together. So when you turn around and say, okay, I got with you only because you were the best thing at the time, you're really creating an entity of betrayal where this person will really feel like destroyed, you know, and who knows what outcomes that could come out of this. The hatred for men could be that much more greater on their part. A number of things, just like the hatred for a woman from a man's point of view, if he's trying to emulate a woman, could be that much greater. And all because you're basically doing this out of temporary solace. You're not doing it because this is the way you are. You're doing it based on circumstance. And that, and again, the healing process, because some women have been so hurt by men that they turn to other women, because they turn to women because, again, they look at this as they need comfort. But then once they get to a healing place, a place of healing, now all of a sudden they look at things differently. So again, the reasons behind it is not based on you are actually like that. It's based on you feeling that way on temporary circumstances. I mean, using is using regardless if you're doing it with a man or if you go the same sex way. But it's still, like I said, the detriment, it could be even more greater for them because they don't really have options like this. They don't have the same options that the opposite sex would have and everything, because they are limited in what they can do and everything. So then I got into, from the gay point of view, of course, the down low issue, and me saying that if a man is not able to be honest with his woman, what makes a gay man think he will be honest with him? And that means, of course, the real connection in that is usually diseases such as things like HIV and all that, things of that nature. And so, for whenever you're dealing with somebody who can't be completely honest about their sexuality, you pretty much know that they're going to be a problem for you as well. But these is a couple other points that I brought up that I felt were really important. But these were the highlights for me because, again, I wanted someone to answer the question. I want the honest discussion. I want someone to respond, because to me, some of the things that are going on, it just comes off as more like a propaganda that's being pushed on people. And there's a lot of things like, now there hasn't, acceptance of gay marriage and things of that nature. And like one of the examples I used was a couple in Kansas City that they had gotten married. Two women had gotten married, and one of the women used a man for a sperm donor to help create children. And then when the relationship ended, she was stuck holding a bag. And so they went after that man for the child support. Now, he did this, as a favor to help these women so they could have the experience of raising children. But he ended up being the one, having the biggest joke. Now, again, this goes right back to what I mean when I say about things not being, when you try to emulate something and you don't have you don't have the ability to maintain it. And this is a perfect example of that, because now you have a situation where there are certain things that two women or two men can't do, and they need us to help them out with it. But then they're not willing to take full responsibility for it when it goes wrong. And so again, that's not right. I mean, especially when you're constantly trying to shove this lifestyle on everybody else. If you can't take responsibility for your own circumstances, and you can't you know uh, acknowledge that what you can't acknowledge how to make it work within your own community, then why do you expect people to give you support? like I said before, I'm not an advocate of this lifestyle at all, but I will acknowledge the fact that we don't live in a perfect world, and there's a lot of people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So me included. So I know that God is going to judge all of us on an individual basis. So there's all I can do is love as God has requested me to love everyone. So that I have family members that are in that lifestyle, and I don't spend my time hitting them over the head with a book or anything else. I said, hey, you know what it is, and that's how we play it. I don't allow myself to be overran, and I don't, but I don't also don't get in anybody's face. But so that's why the way I handled this chapter was I just had to ask. So, like I said, if anybody ever feel free to answer those questions, well, first of all, read the chapter because you'll get a clearer understanding of what I was trying to convey through that. But I just say, hey, if anybody feels free to answer those questions, I'd be glad to hear your answers. So this is the last chapter, and I'm signing off. Again, I'm the author of this. I may not know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to say it anyway. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. Okay, that's the last chapter of the book. Again, I left some. I had several commentaries that did not get recorded. I mean, did not get transferred over to YouTube. So, and I feel like it was a blessing in disguise anyway, because again, I didn't want to give it all the information out in the first place. That's what a book is for. But I do want to say, when I said I'm not perfect, and I mean I'm not having sex with nobody and haven't had sex almost in 20 years. So when I say that, I ain't talking about my sexual activity. I'm talking about other things that I've done wrong. So I just want to make that clear just in case somebody tries to say, oh, so you're out there doing your thing, but you telling everybody else. I said, no, I haven't had sex since since 1997. So, okay. Just wanted to put that out there. Thank you. Bye bye.